Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Opal. Today, we got some more Project K stuff. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Yasuo trial deck from Project K. These were, again, available over at TFT Macau. They've gone around at some events in China quite recently as more of the game is being demoed. So today, we're going to look at the deck coined as a mid-range deck. I'll explain my experience with the deck when I played it at Macau, both in a four-way free-for-all as well as a 1v1, and just kind of run through the deck and see what you kind of expect if you are going to get one of these boxes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Before anything, as always, quick disclaimer, I work for Riot Games. My thoughts and opinions do not reflect the company nor the team that works behind Project K. I'm a collector and a player just like you guys, so I'm excited to take a look at these cards. So yeah, we actually have all 4 decks that were available at Macau. These are the Chinese ones, the English ones. Did not take any English ones other than a Jinx one. That was kind of the one I could take. They had plenty, though, of the Chinese trial decks, obviously being over in Macau. So yeah, there's a ton here, but today we're going to mainly be looking at the Yasuo deck. Oh, we almost messed up there. Let's refix our playmat. So yeah, this is the Yasuo deck. Again, my experience, this was the first deck I played, as well as I think the 3rd deck I played. Ended up having to play it a couple of times here. So yeah, this is the box you get over there. Very basic, nothing really in it. The playmat also was from the event, so do not expect the playmat to come with this deck. It would be a very tight fit in there. We're going to go ahead and sort these out just by deck. So we have the runes, obviously. We'll just keep them toward the side. We have the main deck that we'll jump in shortly. And then we have the black deck. I don't know what you call this deck. But yeah, starting things off, English will be over to the left side here. This is, of course, your legend. This is the Yasuo legend. So you end up playing this, exhaust 2 of your runes. And you're able to move a unit freely from battlefield to battlefield or from base to battlefield. Battlefield to battlefield only if the unit has ganking, so the rules of that unit still apply, and that's pretty important to note down as well. And then with this, we also have our battlefields. We have our Bilgewater one, which is there. I didn't actually end up playing with the Piltover one. I think the main ones that I ended up playing was with the Temple. So this is, I think it's called Will Swept Hillock or something along those lines. It just has ganking as its main feature. So pretty much units can move from this battlefield to other battlefields, which in this deck is kind of insane. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. This is actually the one I played twice with. I ended up getting. And then our final one here is Tarons Peak. When you conquer here, choose 2 runes, ready them at the end of this turn. So yeah, it kind of gives you a little bit of resources to use in between turns and on your opponent's turns, which is pretty important there. So we'll keep those over toward the side. Like we mentioned, this is going to be a Calm Chaos deck, I believe it's called. So a green-purple rune deck. A lot based on movement. The main sell of this deck was the fact that it had movement kind of built into a lot of its mechanics. Again, I used it quite a bit. I found this legend was actually really good when it came to both the 1v1 and the 4-way free-for-all. We'll get more into why I like this deck a little bit later on, but to say the very least is I think this deck has a lot of influence on how a match plays. I think in a 1v1, it's actually really strong. In a 4-way, you have a lot of influence on who's going to win. I found a lot of trouble actually winning with the deck itself. So yeah, you're also going to be getting 6 of each rune, so your Chaos and your Calm, that you would put over onto this slot. And let's get into the thick of it. Let's get into the main deck, as it were. So this deck, you have a couple of champions available to play in this. There's Yasuo, Kane, as well as Misfortune. I don't know if there's anybody else. Yasuo, though, very important for taking down your big boys. This is, honestly, I didn't want to play my Yasuo until very later on, which he is relatively expensive. It is a 6 cost, which Kane is also a 6, but I felt like it was very important to keep this Yasuo alive as long as possible. So usually with these decks, you're going to be putting them over toward the side as kind of your free champion. Main thing for Yasuo, when he attacks, he deals damage equal to his might to an enemy on the battlefield that he is going to. So effectively, he kind of gets a double attack in a sense. So you're going to do 6 damage in your attack and then 6 damage off the effect. The timing of the damage is a little bit weird, and I don't think it's been clarified fully just yet. But yeah, I found keeping the Yasuo alive as long as possible was pretty important, especially for the end game in a multiplayer space. In a 1v1, he felt a little bit more powerful, but if you want to take down big units, especially later on in the game, you kind of have to use Yasuo. You don't really have any other option. So yeah, you get 3 of him in the deck, and then you pretty much get the spell version of his effect, pretty much, which is already a friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might to an enemy at a battlefield. So again, if you have a unit that's in your base, it moves to the battlefield, you do damage to that unit. It's kind of like a reinforcement in a sense here, very similar to kind of how Yasuo's effect is, which is, yeah, I found this was, again, pretty important when you needed to try and take down big units or big champions like the Volibear deck. But I didn't feel like I used it a whole lot, and we'll go into here why. There's a lot of battle tricks and almost hand traps in a sense, if you come from other games, in this deck. The other main thing in this deck, so this is Clockwork Keeper, you get 2 of. When you play him, you can, again, exhaust an additional, or pay, so I believe pay is recycle, of runes. Then you can draw another card. Which is actually really nice. This deck has a lot of draw power, which I think in a format where search isn't really a thing. That's the big thing about this game so far. There isn't search. There's no card right now that lets me search out cards individually into the deck that I know of. So that's rather important. Maybe there will be in the future. Again, anything is subject to change, like I mentioned in my disclaimers as always. But I found it was pretty good. Then we have Traveling Merchant, which again, him and Clockwork Keeper are going to be kind of the openers you see, as well with Wielder of Water a little bit later on. Traveling Merchant, it's both a good and a bad. If you have a card in your hand that you don't really care about or you kind of want to get rid of, he is good. His effect is when you move him, you discard a card, then you draw a card. It isn't an option in a sense where you get to draw the card, and then from the card plus what you draw, you discard. You have to select something first. So I found I actually didn't use them a whole lot because I usually had stuff in my hand that I wanted to play. But in all honesty, if you have 2 ofs, then you can discard 1 and kind of recycles 1. So again, some decent draw power that also gets you a unit on the board. I think I prefer Traveling Merchant over Clockwork almost any day. Again, early on, that resource, very important, I found. Then we go into Wielder of Water. When he's alone or attacking, he gets +3. So if he's alone, he's at F5 is pretty much the TLDR here. Didn't really use him. I found I wanted to draw into my deck a little bit more, but I think for early game skirmishes, like if you're able to get this on turn 2 and then into turn 3, you go for a battle, you'll likely win the battle. Maybe you might need to back him up. Again, 5 might at turn 3 is okay, I think. Again, you treat him as 5, but if you back him up, then effectively he becomes worthless. The best way to think about this is if you play him with a reinforcement of Traveling Merchant, it is the same as if you just played him by himself. So that's why he's good at individual early battles, but then later on, you're not going to really use him for a whole lot, I found. So you get 3 of him in the deck. Then we go here into our Misfortune. So Misfortune Champion here in this one, Chaos Champion or Purple Champion. You can play me onto an open battlefield, friendly units maybe play to open battlefield. So again, able to kind of Zerg rush out onto the battlefield with her. This is really nice in the mid game when you want to try and take a lot of points. I found this was kind of the engine that I used along with Kane to get a lot of my mid game points when I was playing the deck here. So again, branch out, get out onto these battlefields, claim some points. This is where like a lot of that mid-game kind of power surge comes in with the Misfortune and the Kane, which is very nice. So again, you get 2 of her in this deck. Next up, we have our good boy. What is this guy actually called again? Cemetery Attendant. Shadow Isles, and it has dog as a tag there, which is kind of cute. This one's really nice if you need to cycle back things into your hand, if there is something that went into your trash pile and you want to get back as far as units go. I did hold on to him in my hand, but I never actually ended up playing him. I think you would really only get this back if you want to maybe play, I don't know, Stealthy Pursuer or something along those lines. We'll get into them a little bit later on. Or also our next guy who's coming up here. So yeah, again, didn't feel a lot of power from him, but again, it is what it is. You're going to get 2 of him in the deck. Next one, we have Maddened Marauder. This one is a 5 cost. When you play me, move a unit from the battlefield to its base. So a little bit nice of a targeted removal. This kind of gets a battlefield cleared and open. So if you already have units available in your base, you can clear up a battlefield and you can just go and take the point there. Very situational. I found I used him more for the removal more than anything else when it came to actually playing this. Which again, I'll talk about it a little bit more. This deck has a lot of removal. Well, I think it's a really good deck in the 1v1. I found it was very, very good in 1v1 when I played it. Again, not bad. He's very expensive though. 5 rune. You don't have to recycle any, which is very nice. But again, it's a pricey one to play, especially on, I would say, turn 3 or 4. Usually I kept them in my hand and played him a little bit later on, probably around turn 5 or 6, maybe even 7, in those later game kind of back and forth. That's where I actually found value with him. Now we're gonna go to Kane. Kane is kind of insane. Kane, pretty much, you get 3 of in the deck. He can gank, which means he can move battlefield to battlefield. You don't need to be on the temple battlefield, unlike other champs or other decks that don't have a whole lot of ganking in them. This paired with Pursuer, insane. Really good combo. He is pretty expensive. He's close to the same price as Yasuo is, but I found that his ability in the mid part of the game was absolutely nasty, especially in a 4-way table. If there is open or if there's low units, Kane just cleans up and you can score multiple points during a turn. This was pretty handy in the 4-way that I had. I think overall, him paired with Pursuer, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, is a devastating combo, and it's where a lot, I think, the strength comes into this deck. Not as great when it comes to the later part of the game. His effect is if he's moved more than once during a turn, he doesn't take damage, which, again, damage is a little bit unclear at the moment, and I'm not going to go into too much that because I think there's still a lot of things that can change with the game, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. But yeah, he kind of feels not very impactful later into the game. Because again, you kind of need a bigger unit out of this. You'll have to reinforce him. You'll have to give him some buffs in order to really make him shine. He's a good follow-up if you keep him in base paired with the Yasuo Spell. That for sure I think is actually really good. But yeah, mid-game really good, and we'll talk more about why when we get to the other units. Next for spells, we have Ong Guard. Ong Guard, pretty straightforward. Yeah, you +1 somebody and you +1 extra if it's the only unit that you have there. So when we take a look here, Wielder of Water paired with an Ong Guard, that makes him up to a 7 now, because again, he gets +2 from this. If he's the only one there, he gets +3 from his own, and then 2. So he can get very big, but he needs support. So that's kind of what Ong Guard really is for. It's a +2 in the best case scenario. But speaking of +2s, then we talk about Discipline, which Discipline is a +2, but it gives you card draw, which again, card draw, really good. I really like card draw, especially when you can't search to the deck. I found the Yasuo deck was very consistent at getting to the units that I wanted to because there's just so much card draw. +2, plus you get a draw. That's really nice. The other big one here of this is it talks about per turn, which is really important. This means you keep the damage when you go battlefield to battlefield. On Guard, I don't know if it's a misprint right now in English or if it's not worded properly. It doesn't say for the turn, it just talks about there, so I don't know if it's just talking about a battle or a combat. Again, there's a lot of these kind of small little rulings that will be up in the air until things are kind of sorted out and you get more of an official rule set coming out from the team there. I know the team's done an AMA over on a couple Discords and a lot of community events. Go check it out. They might have already talked about this. So yeah, Discipline. I love this card. Again, double up onto the damage, compare it out, gets you a lot of card draw when you get into your turn. Is a reaction speed spell, but you can just play it normally. Next we have Defy. Now Defy is kind of insane for its cost. TLDR, you counter a spell that costs no more than 4 and no more than, I think it's a shield or a rune. Again, gotta double check there. This is really nice for certain decks. I believe Disintegrate is a 4 cost over in the red decks, which was really annoying. I was able to get rid of one, I believe. I believe it's Disintegrate. I believe it's the Annie looking spell there that's over in the red decks. Again, if a player like me who's coming from card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, this is pretty much a hand trap in a sense of a negate, which is really nice. I like this. I think negates though need to be explored more and need to be clarified a little bit more when it comes to the rules, because it's not very clear exactly what you can interact with, especially when someone just plays a card over on their turn. I want to know whether or not I can defy, because it is reaction level speed. That kind of stuff needs to be clarified a little bit more. But again, I feel if you can use this very freely, it's a really, really good card. But if it's only reaction to stuff that affects you, which it sounds like it is, it's not as good, but I still think it's really good for its cost. It's a 1 cost, which you're gonna get that mana back anyway if you're playing this on your opponent's turn. So yeah, overall I think it was pretty good. Then we have Pursuer. Pursuer is going to be your mid-range that you're usually pairing with Kane. So how Pursuer works is when a friendly unit moves from my location, I may move with it. So if you're starting in base and the Kane says, "Okay, I'm willing to move," she moves freely, which is very nice. So if you're going onto the ganking one, then she can go gank elsewhere and pick up another point. With Kane, then you can go elsewhere if you use the Yasuo ability. So yeah, I think Pursuer is kind of insane with Kane. This is where a lot of that mid-range power comes from. You're looking at about 10 might, maybe 12 if you buff it up with one of these spells if paired with Kane. This is where a lot of the power lies, I feel, in the Yasuo deck when it comes to the mid game, and a lot about why people talk about why it's a good mid-range deck. Later on, it's not amazing. Again, if you're dealing with really big ones, you're probably just going to pair it up with Yasuo, and then Yasuo gets a little bit extra damage. You're not going to be running it with Kane as much. But again, really good reinforcement. Love it. I didn't actually get to use this as much as I thought I would. I didn't really know about the combo until my second game, and then I didn't draw her again. There is times, especially in these decks, where you can just you can just brick, you can just lock up, which is really unfortunate. This one, Seal of Calm. This is just your free token kind of thing. Added energy. Very straightforward. Every deck seems to have one of these, so it's not too crazy. Next we go to Meditation. Meditation is a weird card for me. Again, it's a reaction, which pretty much allows you to exhaust a friendly unit on your board, and then you can draw one. So again, it is purely for card draw. So if you pay the 2, you get 1 card draw. If you exhaust, though, you can draw 2 cards, and this is where that kind of engine comes in, and you start to see how much free draw is in this deck. Again, you got draw from them, you have draw from Discipline, you have draw from this. Again, if I'm doing my math right, you have a plus, 8 to 10 in card draw in this deck, which again, you can kind of mill through and you can get into the units that you want, like Pursuer and Kane, which I think are relatively important. But yeah, interesting card. I don't know necessarily if this is busted just yet. You did use it to kind of go hard on the cards in one moment where I kind of drew through my deck during a showdown, and I kept getting reactions, which was very nice. So it kind of gave me enough tools. But again, very much you kind of need to get what you need. You need to get what you want in your draw, and that can be a hit or miss. Again, you're kind of putting it up to chance. Next one, we have, what is it, Rebuke or something along those lines? I don't remember the exact name off the top. Rebuke. All right, so I think this is one of the most busted cards in the game. I think this is actually insane. Free removal, It is not damage-based removal, which is a big one. Damage-based, sure, you can do damage onto a card, but these pretty much allow you to clear anything as long as it isn't, I believe it's shielded, which is the anti-spell one. I'll have to double check which one that is. It might be Aegis or something along those lines. But yeah, return a unit at the battlefield to its owner's hand. So especially if you're going against any kind of hard aggro deck that says, hey, I'm gonna go out, go claim, boom, put this in, you just pretty much stop their play, and pretty much all the resources that they just used for that play go out the window. This is insane. When it comes to a 1v1, I found this is where I mentioned in a 4-way match that this deck is very influential, but it isn't a winner in my opinion. You can get to match point, but you'll have a really tough time taking match point. Whereas this, you can prevent others from claiming on to points. You kind of save this at the last second, put it on out there. So yeah, Rebuke, kind of insane. I love it. I think you would add an extra Rebuke actually into this deck. Maybe take, I don't know, you might take one of the water wielders or something. This field felt really powerful during my playtest over in Macau. And then last but not least is kind of the Yasuo signature, Wind Wall. This is just a straight counter to a spell. It's better than Defy, so you can use it for bigger spells. The issue with it right now, and again what I mentioned with counter spells at the moment, is it's sometimes unclear exactly when you can use this to counter things. So immediately what you would probably look at is, if you think of it this way, counter is a sense something is coming towards you, you are negating it. So it's going to affect your stuff or affect your field. So what's important here is, for some decks, you have to have, if you're smart with timing, this doesn't impact you at all, which kind of sucks. It's a very expensive card, so it feels like you should be able to use it. Again, 3 plus recycle 2, so you're going to be equal on your runes onto your next turn, which isn't too bad. But again, timing with this is extremely important. So during a showdown, this is really good. Again, if you could just negate something in the stack, it can be really good. If a Victor player misplays the timing and they play Grand Stratagem during a showdown, which I think they can, this is where you can counter. But if it's played outside the showdown, then it can't. That's my current understanding. That's what I got from a lot of Q&As that I did watch. So again, don't take it at face value. Rules of the games can change. If this becomes a lot more of a tool that you can freely use during the game, I think this becomes insane. Again, it operates as a hand trap. It's reaction level speed. You can react to anything. If you can react to anything in the future, I think this card is a little bit busted. It might have to go up in cost, just because you can nullify win conditions with it. Again, if you're going up against a Victor player and you can respond to Grand Strategy with this outside of Showdown, it would be insane. It would just shut down that deck and shut down the win condition. So yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of kind of battle tricks, manipulation effects onto the overall playing space with this deck from Yasuo, which I think is quite fun. Again, very good in a 1v1. I found I had a lot of answer to a lot of plays by my opponent. If they misplayed timing, Windwall was insane during showdowns, so that's a big one. Yeah, that's kind of the space, right? It turns into timing with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much all here today for this Yasuo deck. This is everything that comes with the Chinese trial decks that are available right now at events in China as well as Macau. Yeah, we'll take a look at the other decks and, you know, my thought process. I wanted to talk about Yasuo because Yasuo is the deck that I actually played with multiple times when I was at Macau. And I also played with the Victor deck, so we might also open up the Victor deck in another video. But yeah, that's it for now. That was our rather long deck unboxing there, so thank you guys for watching. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time for our next deck from Project K. Ciao.